All right, let's dive into something sparkling today.
Ooh, sounds fun.
We're talking crown jewels.
I'm ready to be dazzled.
This awesome newsletter, Love to Visit London, is going to be our guide.
Perfect.
And by the end, you'll be like, crown jewels experts, dropping knowledge like gemstones.
Exactly.
Well, let's do this. I'm excited.
Okay, so I've got to admit, the crown jewels, they're on my bucket list. Big time.
Yeah, they are pretty spectacular.
But, okay, before I book a flight to London, what exactly are the crown jewels?
Right.
I mean, yeah, there are crowns, obviously, but there's got to be more to it.
Oh, there is so much more. You're talking about, well, over 100 objects. And get this, 23,000 gemstones.
Whoa.
Yeah. But the core of it, it's what they call the English coronation regalia. These are like the sacred objects used in the coronation ceremony.
Sacred objects?
Uh-huh.
That is interesting. I mean, is it just because they're old and valuable, what makes them sacred? It's way deeper than that. It's like they're connected to centuries of British history, you know?
Right.
They symbolize the power of the monarchy, this continuity.
Mm-hmm.
Just imagine, right? These objects, they've witnessed coronations, they've witnessed triumphs, they've witnessed times of turmoil. They're really embodiments of the nation's story.
Okay, wow. So we've got the 23,000 gemstones
Yeah.
and centuries of history.
Yeah.
That's some serious bling.
Oh, yeah.
So out of all these pieces, are there any that are just jaw-dropping?
Oh, absolutely. You've got St. Edward's crown. That's the big one, the main attraction. It's solid gold,
Yeah.
encrusted with you can't even imagine the amount of precious stones.
Wow.
But here's a cool fact. Okay, one of the rubies on it, it's said to have been worn by Edward the Black Prince at the Battle of Crecy.
Wait, hold on. So a ruby, that was in an actual battle.
Yeah, pretty amazing, huh?
That is incredible. It's like history coming to life.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
Yeah.
What else is there?
All right. How about this? The Sovereign's Scepter. Definitely a must-see. Not just stunning, but it has the Cullinan eye diamond, also known as the Star of Africa.
Okay.
And this is the largest clear-cut diamond in the world.
Stop. I need a minute. I'm trying to process all this sparkle. It's mind-blowing. The craftsmanship, the artistry, and like you said, the history behind it all. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it makes you think, right, what do these jewels even represent today? In our world now, are they relics? Or do they still have meaning, in a society that's constantly changing?
It's a great question. It's fascinating to think about how symbols, like the crown jewels, how they evolve.
Yeah.
They used to represent this absolute power, this very clear hierarchy.
Right.
But today, the monarchy, it's different. It's more symbolic. So what do the crown jewels symbolize now?
That's the million-dollar question. And it's not just the jewels, it's what they represent, right? Heritage, national identity, this whole evolving relationship between the monarchy and the people.
It's interesting because the newsletter, it doesn't just talk about the crown jewels. It also mentions other sides of London, like Hackney. And it got me thinking,
Yeah.
Maybe exploring a place like Hackney, it can give us a glimpse into how London itself is evolving.
Oh, that's a really interesting connection because, yeah, you've got the crown jewels. They represent this history, this tradition. But London, it's a city that's always changing, always reinventing itself.
Right.
And Hackney, with its art scene and its multicultural energy, it embodies that modern spirit so perfectly.
Yeah. Okay, so we have these symbols of tradition,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have Hackney, which seems to be like the cutting edge of London.
Yeah.
What's the vibe like over there?
Well, the newsletter describes it as a place where, you can walk down the street and just see, vibrant murals around every corner. You can duck into these, cozy cafes, find vintage treasures in, these hidden markets.
Oh, cool.
And then when night falls, it transforms into this hub of pubs, live music, clubs.
Okay, I'm sold. That sounds like the perfect mix of culture, art, energy. Definitely adding that to my London list.
And don't forget about Hackney Marshes. The newsletter mentions it as a great spot for a jog with the London skyline as your backdrop.
Seriously, you're making me want to move to London. It's amazing how one newsletter can spark so much curiosity,
I know. That's the power of good information, right? It can open up whole worlds.
It really can. Speaking of opening up worlds, let's bring it back to the crown jewels.
Okay.
What I'm getting from all of this is that there's so much more than just sparkly things.
Oh, definitely. They're a powerful symbol of British history, of tradition, the legacy of the monarchy. Each gem, it tells a story. Each crown. It whispers tales of power, of ceremony.
Makes you wonder what stories they could tell if they could talk.
Right.
Yeah. All the coronations, the
Yeah.
historical figures.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that's what makes exploring these kinds of places so fascinating, right?
Fascinating.
You're not just looking at objects, you're connecting with the past,
Mm-hmm.
with stories that have shaped like the world we live in today.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm officially adding both the Crown Jewels and Hackney to my must-see list.
Awesome.
Thanks to Love to Visit London, my London adventure is taking shape.
That's what we like to hear.
So true. And, you know, it makes you think about how London itself has changed.
Oh, absolutely. And how it continues to change. I mean, it's a living, breathing city,
Yeah,
always evolving.
that's a great point. And with that in mind, I think we should dive into that evolution a bit more.
I'm game. What do you want to explore?
Well, you mentioned Hackney has a vibrant art scene. Let's unpack that a bit more.
Okay, cool. I'm ready. The newsletter mentioned murals and hidden markets.
Hmm.
What are some of the other things that make Hackney's art scene so special?
Well, it's a real mix, you know? You've got everything from street art to these independent galleries showcasing cutting-edge contemporary work.
That's so cool. And are there any particular artists or galleries that stand out?
Well, there's this really cool spot called the Howard Griffin Gallery.
Okay.
They focus on like street art and urban contemporary art.
I love that.
Oh.
It feels like, in a way, street art is kind of like a modern-day version of the Crown Jewels.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. The Crown Jewels, they represent this grand history, the monarchy, this kind of like official narrative, right?
Yeah.
But street art, it's like the voice of the people.
Mhm.
It's raw, it's unfiltered. It's a way for people to express themselves, their own stories, outside of that official narrative.
Wow, that's a really interesting way to look at it. And I think you're right. There's this kind of parallel there. Both forms of expression, they tell a story about a particular time and place.
Exactly. And it makes me wonder, what will people in the future see as the crown jewels of our time?
That's a great question. What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe it'll be the digital art, the memes, the viral videos that capture the spirit of our age.
I could see that. It's fascinating to think about how these forms of expression, they're constantly evolving and what will be considered, you know, treasured in the future.
Definitely. And it goes to show, London, it's not just about the historical landmarks.
Right.
It's about the people, the art, the culture that's constantly evolving.
A living, breathing city.
Exactly. And for one, I can't wait to experience it all.
Me too. It's always an adventure.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, just the big museums and palaces.
Right.
It's the street art. It's the markets. It's the people.
So true. So speaking of those people, I got to ask,
Mhm.
what are the people in Hackney like?
Well, the newsletter describes it as a super diverse community.
Okay, cool.
You've got artists and musicians, entrepreneurs and families. It's a real melting pot of cultures and backgrounds.
I love that. It sounds like a place where, like, everyone can find their tribe.
Totally. And that's reflected in the food scene too.
Oh. Tell me more about the food.
Well, you can find anything in Hackney, like literally anything, from Michelin-starred restaurants to street food from all over the world.
Whoa, okay. That's impressive.
Oh, yeah. And the newsletter specifically mentions this Turkish restaurant called Mangal 2.
Mangal too.
Yeah. They say it's a must-try for, like, authentic Turkish cuisine.
Okay, noted. Turkish food after checking out the crown jewels. That's going on the itinerary.
Definitely. And you know, it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like you have the crown jewels, which represent this long history of tradition and monarchy.
Right.
And then you have Hackney, which is all about like this modern, diverse energy. It's like two sides of the same coin.
That's a really good point. It's like London is this place where history and the future collide.
Exactly. And that's what
Yeah.
makes it so fascinating.
Absolutely. And it makes me even more excited to visit.
Well, you definitely should. It's an experience you won't forget.
So, okay, we've talked about the crown jewels. We've talked about Hackney.
Yeah.
And I'm already feeling inspired to book a flight.
Awesome.
But is there anything else in the newsletter that we haven't touched on yet?
Let me see. Oh, they also mentioned something called the Hackney Walk.
The Hackney Walk. What's that?
Well, it sounds like it's this area with like designer outlets and independent boutiques.
Okay, cool. So like a shopping district.
Yeah, but with a bit more of a unique curated vibe.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
They mentioned specifically like this store called Burberry. Apparently they have like this huge outlet store there.
Oh, wow. That sounds dangerous for my wallet.
I know, right?
But hey, a little retail therapy never hurt anyone.
Exactly.
So we've got the history, we've got the art, we've got the food, and now we've got the shopping.
It's like London has it all.
It really does. And, it's amazing how, like, one little newsletter can spark so many ideas for a trip.
It's true. It just shows you the power of like good information and good storytelling.
Totally. So, think about all this. It makes me wonder, what's your favorite thing about London?
Ooh, that's a tough one. There's just so much to love. But I think for me it's that energy, the fact that
Love
it's
that.
constantly changing, evolving. It's like it's a city that never sleeps.
I could totally see that. And it's not just about the hustle and bustle.
No, it's also about the creativity, the way that like old and new tradition and innovation, they all
So it's
coexist.
like a perfect blend of the past and the present, all pointing towards the future.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so unique.
Well, I'm convinced London is officially at the top of my travel list.
I'm so glad to hear that. You won't regret it.
So with all this talk about London, it makes me wonder, if you could only choose one thing to see or do in London, what would it be?
Oh, wow. That's a really, really tough one. Okay, if I had to pick just one thing, I think it would have to be to experience a show in the West End.
Ooh, good choice.
The energy, the talent, the spectacle, it's just incredible. There's
Yeah.
really nothing quite like it.
I can only imagine. So with all this amazing insight into London, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
I agree. It's been such a fun journey exploring London through this newsletter.
It really has. So before we say goodbye, any final thoughts for our listeners?
Let me see. I think the biggest takeaway for me is, don't be afraid to explore. Whether it's like a new city or a new idea,
So true.
there's always something new to discover and who knows, you might just stumble upon your next big adventure.
Love that. And speaking of adventures, don't forget to check out Love to Visit London for even more inspiration.
Yes, it's a fantastic resource.
You can find the link in our show notes.
And until next time, keep exploring and keep those adventurous spirits alive.
And remember, the world is full of fascinating stories just waiting to be uncovered.
Right.
So go out there and discover them. It really is. And, it makes me think, we've talked about all this amazing stuff, the crown jewels, Hackney, the art, the food. But what really sticks with me is this idea of contrast,
Yeah, I see
This
that.
blend of old and new, tradition and innovation, that seems to be everywhere in London.
Exactly. It's like it's what gives the city its unique energy.
Totally. And I think that's something we can all learn from.
Hmm.
Like embracing the past, but also being open to the future, to new experiences, new ideas.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
about finding that balance.
Right. And I think London, it just embodies that so well.
It really does.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on, don't you?
I agree.
It's been amazing diving into London with you.
It's been a pleasure.
And a huge thank you to our listeners for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
And remember, if you want even more London inspiration, be sure to check out Love to Visit London.
You won't regret it.
The link is in our show notes.
Until next time,
Keep exploring.
and keep those adventurous spirits alive.
And remember, the world is full of fascinating stories just waiting to be uncovered. So go out there and discover them.